Matthew chapter 5, we're in there, so if you want to go ahead and flip to that, it won't be up here on the screen. I was in college, and in college I got in some trouble. It wasn't really bad trouble. I mean, for me, in trouble at this point in time wasn't that big of a deal. But we had these games that we would play on campus. We'd get airsoft pellets, not BBs, but plastic airsoft pellets, and we would shoot each other all around campus. We'd have like tag games and all sorts of things like that. And so you'd have a bunch of guys just running and going up and shooting people with the airsoft pellets. I mean, if you didn't know they were airsoft guns, then you would be like, wow, what's going on at this Christian college? But it was before everything was happening with the gun violence, and so we were like, let's have fun. Well, there were times where I was sitting doing a paper, and my roommate, who happened to have one of the guns, would shoot me in the back, and I'd be like, and then I would turn around and I'd do it to him, and pretty soon we're just shooting each other back and forth. It's pinging off the wall and pinging off our screens, and it's crazy. And to the point where he said, okay, Nathan, I promise I won't shoot you, okay? So I'm sitting here working on my paper, and 15 minutes later I hear the snap. Oh, you said you promised. It's like, yeah, but I was just bored. And have you ever had people who said that they would promise to do something and then they never delivered on their promise? Happens a lot, right? It's kind of frustrating, and I'll be honest, I get frustrated with a lot. Like, I'm a person who, I like to be on time. I like to be there on time. If you say show up at my house at 6, I'm going to show up at probably 5:50 or 5:55. I just like to, and maybe you're not that person. Maybe you're the person who says, oh, I'll be there at 6, and you show up at 6:10. We don't like you, okay? We just don't like you. It's so frustrating to us because it's no big deal, but it's just, when you say you're going to be there at that time, we want you to be there at that time, yeah? Or maybe you're like AT&T and you'll be there from 9 to 12, you know? And then they call you at noon, we'll be there tomorrow from 9 to 12, you got to take another day off. But I like it when people say, I will do something, and they will do it. And maybe you're not like, oh, things happen. Like Liz, she said that she would do nursery. Something happened. Cam got sick. What's more important? A mother with her child, or a mother who's away from their child sick in the nursery? So there's some times where you kind of understand, but if you're that type of person who will find an excuse to not commit to things that you said you commit to, today you're going to be a little uncomfortable. Because Jesus talks about this. He talks about it pretty in depth. I mean, I don't want to be a person that doesn't want to be honoring my word. And maybe that's a part of your life. You're like, yeah, I need to work on that. But you're late to everything except for maybe going to the movies. How many of you hate being late to movies? If I miss those trailers, those previews, I'm nervous. I mean, I know people who will be late to their own granddaughter's baptism, but they'll never be late to the previews at all. They'll show up right on time. I get irritated with that. And maybe you do too. Maybe you promise, and you're always a person who over-promises, and you always under-deliver. And it often has people skeptical of what you say. I had a friend that contacted me. He was always that friend who he said he would do something and he would never do. He always overpromised and always undelivered. And he contacted me out of the blue on Facebook, and he's like, hey, how you doing? And so we're talking back and forth, and it's like, oh, pretty good, how are you? He's like, oh, how's life treating you? We go back, and then finally he says, I've got an opportunity for you. And if you don't know what those words mean, what those words mean is, I have a pyramid scheme for you. That's usually what that means. And he did. And some stupid sporting app thing that I can make money off of, and I'm like, I'm sorry, there's no way I could commit to this. I'm going to say no. But he didn't quite understand that no meant no, and so he kept going. I was like, no, you don't understand. I don't trust this, which was a nice way of me saying I don't trust you, because you promised many things before and you never delivered. So if you're that person who you're always skeptical of what people are saying, maybe Maybe you were like me at one time in college. We had a intramural basketball team, and on the floor there was this guy who said, "Oh yeah, I played at Ben Davis, and I was a starting point guard my freshman year, and I was getting recruited by Kentucky, and then I broke my foot, and I'm better, but I'm just not where I used to be." And so I kind of believed him, and I drafted him with my number 1 pick, and that kid couldn't play basketball at all. I was too trusting. I mean, this great big thing. I was like, there's no way a kid's going to lie in Bible college. No, he lied in Bible college. But maybe you're like me. You've been burned so many times that you're skeptical of what people say. And maybe with today's culture, you're even more skeptical. I mean, when you watch the news, are you watching the news and taking a hook, line, and sinker and saying, "Oh yeah, this is totally true"? No, because of that fake news stuff that's been going around. You have Facebook pages that are putting out fake news and then fake news articles, and then you have like Fox News or CNN picking up that and saying so-and-so said this, and then you'll have some politician who will quote it, and then both sides will be quoting them, and pretty soon it turned out to be false. And so we are now skeptical of people telling us the truth all the time. And Jesus addresses this, because in Jesus' culture, people's word wasn't solid. It wasn't an oak. And Jesus is talking to people where the platform is the law. They talked about this all the time. They would be going to the water cooler and they'd be like, "Hey man, did you hear about what Rabbi so-and-so said about marriage? Well, he said this. Oh yeah, I totally believe." And so they would use this law to talk about this thing, to have common talk. And so when Jesus breaks down to his Sermon on the Mount, he is flinging open the gates to his kingdom. And this is his rally cry. And he wants us to do better than the culture around us. He wants us, and he wanted them to be truthful in what we say. And this is what Jesus says to those who follow him. In Matthew chapter 5, verses 33 through 37, he says, "Again, you have heard that it was said to people long ago, 'Do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made.' But I tell you, do not swear on an oath at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you can even make one hair black or white." I don't know, I can go to Walmart and change it black. But you know what he's saying. All you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. So he's saying you shouldn't swear on anything on heaven or on earth. And maybe you've heard this and you automatically interpret, Jesus doesn't want us to cuss. It's not what he's talking about right here. Right here. He's talking about people who would go around and say oaths over anything. Maybe, "Hey Corey, would you fix my car?" And this would be his comment, "By the hairs of my chin I shall do it." We don't talk like that nowadays. It's kind of weird if you were to give an oath over everything. Hey honey, will you take out the trash? By the head of my firstborn I shall. We don't talk like that. That's so foreign and so beyond us, but that's what they were doing back then. They were making oaths over everything, and they were making what should be oaths, what should be contracts, what should be vows. They would make it so pointless. And that's why we talked about marriage last week, how it's a commitment, that it's not just a commitment, but we need to be bought in with intimacy and passion. And the culture there, they were just throwing it to the wayside. And Jesus wants us to be one flesh. God wants us to be one. And that's not just some common contract that we just get in and out of. And so Jesus is saying, the value of truth, that to people who value truth, he's wanting them to honor truth. Don't just say, "Oh yeah, I like the truth." No, live by it. Throughout the Old Testament, the Jews were commanded to honor their oaths. That if they made an oath, they had to keep it. And these were used more than just expressions. By my life, I will eat healthier. By my head, I will cut your grass when you're on vacation. May I never see comfort unless I bring you a falafel in the morning. We don't use these expressions, but we kind of use some. Maybe you say, I swear to God, if he doesn't stop, I'm going to get so mad. Or maybe you say, quite frankly, this is what I believe, and you're qualifying truth with something more than just the truth. And Jesus is telling us that we shouldn't do that. Maybe you've said, I swear to God, if you don't quit clicking your pen, I'm going to make you swallow it. You should probably honor that oath because you swear to God. And I want to see that. That'd be interesting, right? See, this is more than just an expression. And maybe you say it just as an expression, but Jesus wants us to be honoring to his name and to God's name. And so through this whole thing, he's addressing two values. The one is, make your speech simply true. He says, all you need to say is simply yes or simply no. That we should be trustworthy enough to not need some qualifying oath or vow or swear over it. That if we say we're going to do something, we do it. We don't back down. We don't move when we're not committed to something, and something more desirable comes along. We'll say, okay, maybe I won't do it. One of the big things that I've noticed is Facebook events. Maybe if you're on Facebook, you get this event of it's somebody's daughter's birthday party, and there's three choices that you can have. There is yes, no, and the one that comes straight out of hell, maybe. I hate the maybe. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. And if you can't make up your mind at that point in time, whether it's a yes, yes, or no, no, don't click maybe. Get back with them and click yes or no. Don't let, maybe I'll do this. And here's what people tend to do. They'll click maybe, because maybe if something better comes along, they'll come. Or maybe I forgot to do something because I don't have no idea what my schedule is because I'm so out there and people can't trust me where I'm going. So I'll put maybe and I probably won't show up. Or maybe I'll be 10, 15 minutes late unless there's a movie and I'll come to the previews. You see, when we live life in the maybe, people don't trust us. When all we do is we say maybe to this, maybe to that, and we're wishy-washy, and there's no yes, there's no no, it gives us room to back out. We are non-committal. And in a society that's non-committal, Jesus wants us to be a yes or no, not a maybe. And so, I don't want you to be cruel with the truth. You know, there was a rabbi who took this so far that you should be truthful in all circumstances, whether it hurts somebody's feelings or not. So if your spouse or your significant other says, "Do these pants make my butt look big?" you don't need to respond, "Yes, honey, a hippo would have less room wearing those slacks." Don't be mean, okay? Don't be mean with it. Maybe the best suggestion is, "Honey, do you like those pants?" "Yes." "Then you should wear them." That's a good response. That's gotten me out of trouble many a times. Jesus has a clear message, and he wants us to have clear speech. Is what you say being held in high regard? Do people doubt your stance on things that you speak about? When we say what we say, we are sharing the essence of our soul. That God spoke this world into existence, and our words can birth trust, or it can birth distrust when it comes to matters of the kingdom. If you are constantly wishy-washy in what you say, if you have a bunch of maybes to yes or no questions, people probably won't listen to you when they ask you, "How do I become a Christian?" Or "What does God think of this?" Or how can I help my family in this circumstance? Maybe you're not getting those questions because you're not putting yourself out there, and also you're not a trustworthy person. You're non-committal in things that you have said in the past and things that really don't matter. If you say, "I pray for you and you don't do it, are you really just saying Jesus stuff so that you'll be accepted? Honesty in the church is desperately needed. Clarity and understanding is vital as we grow. And if you have concerns, and then I come to you and I say, what's wrong? Why'd this happen? And you say, oh, nothing's wrong. But then you turn around, and when I'm not around, you say, well, such and such happened. I can't believe this. You are not being true to your word. If it's a big deal and you don't want to share it, you shouldn't share it with anybody. Not just the people that might call you out on it. So, Jesus addressed two things in this. And I think everything comes with this underlying reason. Not putting our faith in compartments. This is the big thing that the Jews were doing. They were saying, if I made an oath on, let's say this is a compartment. If I made an oath saying, I swear by my hair, I put it in this compartment, I can get out of it easy. I can lie because I said I did an oath in something that just doesn't matter. Or maybe, but if I said, I swear to God, or I swear on the law, they would be bound to that. That would be lying, and they would be guilty of it. And so Jesus is looking at this like, what are you talking about? If you lie in any circumstance, guess what? It's a lie. I don't care if you're in the boardroom or if you're in the bathroom. If you're lying, you're lying. So, you can't just choose how you're going to follow Jesus in different circumstances. Well, if I'm in this room, I won't lie. But if I'm in that room, my bedroom, or my living room, or my office, I'll lie. Jesus is saying, no. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. Be committed. And so if my wife woke up one morning and said, I swear by Katy Perry, I swear by Katy Perry, I will make you bacon for breakfast. She can get out of it. But if she said, oh, I swear, and Jesus is like, no. If you say you're going to do it, do it. Cook me bacon. Okay? You see, the Jews, they had this down to a science. And they were, oh yeah, I'll do it. Cross my heart and hope to die. Stick a needle in my eye. All those things you would say as a kid. And Jesus is saying, you know what? Just say yes or no. Why are you being so confusing with this? And that's really no different than the way we sometimes put our faith in compartments. We can have this duplicity when it comes to our faith. That maybe you don't say, I swear to God, or anything like that, but maybe you would lie to get an advantage in the business world, or maybe you would lie to throw your spouse off your track, or maybe you would crack up and say a nasty joke and just put your faith in a compartment that has nothing to do with God. And maybe they know that you missed the Christmas party because you went to service, and they're like, okay, what's up with this? He says these things, but we know he goes to church. What are they going to think about your faith? That is not very convincing, that you're not very committal, and so why commit to something when you don't have to be committed? See, honesty is your word, and honesty is your commitment to follow Jesus. So we shouldn't be flippant with our words, and we shouldn't be flippant with our faith. We shouldn't put our faith in Jesus in this circumstance, and then turn around, and when it comes to this part of our life, we don't. And I tell you what, we do it all the time. And maybe you're right here saying, you know what, I don't want to get all Jesus-y and all super important. But Jesus is saying, if you're going to follow me, your yes is yes, your no is no. You are to be committed to me in everything. That you don't put your faith in this compartment and in that compartment and in this compartment. He wants you to be 100% in. And yes, we do fail. But in those failings, we should be responding to him and saying, you know what? No. You committed yourself to the cross for me. I should at least commit myself to you. So our bottom line is, may your words honor the word. And what you say, and even in what you do, you honor the word, Jesus Christ, Logos. The law says don't break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows. And that whole fulfill to the Lord, that's what we are called to do. It means to pay back, that your commitment is to do something. But when you say you're going to do something, that's like a debt, and you're going to do it. It's not something that you could push off. Somebody else will take care of it. It's not something you can be wishy-washy on. When people look at your life and they see that you are not a yes, yes, or a no, no, they're going to look at your faith and see, is it really a yes faith? Does it really matter? See, God doesn't desire for you to only be honest in certain times. He wants you to be honest all the times. If you've ever uttered the phrase, and I've heard it, oh, you don't lie, you're in church. Okay, don't lie anywhere, all right? That's what Jesus is saying. Don't lie anywhere. It doesn't matter if you're in this building that we have church service in. We are the church, and if you're in our midst, whether we're here or at the park or at the diner, don't lie. Pretty simple. Be truthful and be committed to your faith. Being committed to not just your faith, but your faith includes your faith family. So people really don't understand how important it is to have a commitment to your faith family. We'll church shop from left to right because we're not a committed culture. We aren't committed to one. When things go wrong, we want to flee and go somewhere else until somewhere goes wrong there and we go somewhere else. No, Christ is saying you are to be a yes, yes person and a no, no person. And that means you don't go wishy-washy just in your words, but all of your life. And so if you are a member of this church, if you're not a member of the church, this doesn't involve you, but if you're a member of this church, this is your family. You have to be committed to your family. If Toby and Oren had certain responsibilities in our home and they decided, you know what, I'm going to go to the Stokes house and I'm going to do their dishes. That's not right. They're committed to our family too. Now they can do that, but then they slack on our. No, they have responsibility in our home. We're trying to teach them that when you're a family, you work together. You work for the family, and that's why we need committed people for our church family. That if you say you're going to be in the nursery, we need you to be in the nursery so that people have opportunity to worship God. Don't just think, someone will be there. Make plans. Give me a call. Give somebody else on the list a call. Don't just give me a call. If you agree to do something, you need to be all in and do it. Don't just contribute in what you prefer, but be sold out on loving this town. And we can say that we care, but until we act, it's just a bunch of words. Really, it's just a bunch of maybes. Because truth happens when we act on it. And those who will say anything and do anything just to get trust and whether they fulfill, we don't want to be those type of people. We need to be a family that when we say something, we're going to do something, we're going to do it. We're not going to back out of it. Our words reflect His word, Jesus. And that is what His kingdom is about. This world needs to see what commitment means. They don't trust people because there's lying. There's fake news. You don't trust people in what they say because there's constantly people are out for their own good, but we are going to be truthful to His goodness. And that requires us to simply just say yes or no when it comes to people asking us to do things. And we need to be truthful to our word and follow through on it. We need to be truthful to His calling and His grace, and not just decide, I'm going to be faithful here, but not here. We need to actively be yes for Christ in all things. Would you stand with me, please? Father, to be committed means we have to surrender. And I'll be honest, there are times I don't like that word. I don't like to surrender. I don't like to give up what I want. But Lord, to do what You've called us to, that means we have to be true to Your word. And if we're going to say, I follow Jesus, we're going to follow Jesus. Lord, help us to surrender our lives to you, because it's the goodness of the life that's in Jesus that really sustains us. We can seek after life in dead things, or we can seek after life in him. So Father, I pray that this hour we say yes to Christ. Praise in Jesus' name. Amen. We're going to